Happy Friday. It's time for our Friday craft. But before we start, we're going to actually talk about our new Patreon account. And we have so many extras that we are putting on there and we are going to be loading on there. So go check it out. So let's get started on what we're working on today. We have these two small wall hangings, and I don't know, maybe from the 70s or something. So I'm going to work to try to get these little pictures out of here, and I'm taking my snippers and I'm snipping off those little nibs on the back, and because I couldn't find a way to kind of lift those little circles to release it, so I just cut them off. So you can see it's just a little piece of cardboard, and I'm going to wipe those down before I start painting. And here I'm picking a color that I want to work with. So I chose this Cowgirl Coral is the name of it, and it's from the DIY line. And I'm going to pour a little out in a pot. This is an all natural paint, and you don't want to introduce bacteria to this paint because you can get mold on it, especially if you're not one to use paint a lot. Like if you're not turning over your paint stash a lot, then you want to make sure that you're not introducing any kind of mold into there. So I'm going to give these two coats. It takes me a while to get in and out of those little pockets there, and once I get one coat done, then I just kind of go back and do two coats. While those are drying, I'm going to grab my burlap wide ribbon, and I'm going to cover these two little pieces of cardboard here. So I grab my burlap ribbon, and I'm also going to grab some of this cotton batting, and this is what I had on hand, but you can use whatever you have on hand. And if you decide you don't want to use that, then you don't have to. You can cover it with whatever you want. It doesn't need it to be exactly what I have here. Is just whatever you like. If you want something that is a printed fabric, then do whatever you like to do. This is not a have to follow this exactly. So I'm going to cut two pieces of the batting, and I'm just going to follow the lines of the little cardboard pieces, and I'm also going to cut two pieces of the burlap ribbon, and again I'm just going to follow the lines. I'm not being too precise here. I'm just kind of giving it a rough cut, and just making sure that I have enough to cover those cardboard pieces. So next what I'm gonna do is I am gonna grab some of this the glue. I'm making sure that those fit well. I'm gonna grab my Type-On, and I'm gonna go over the cardboard piece first, and I'm gonna just put some on there and take my popsicle stick and push that glue, spread it all the way to the edges there, and I'm gonna lay down my batting first and press that down. So once I got that where I wanted, I'm gonna take some more glue and go over the top of the batting, take my popsicle stick and spread that all the way to the edges as well, and lay down my burlap piece. I'm going to do that for both of the pieces, and I'm just patting that down to make sure that it's going to bond well to that. And I'm going to set those aside. Now I'm going to go back to my frame, and I'm just going to wet distress this with some water and a paper towel, just to kind of bring some of that wood background back up to see. I just am trying to give it a little bit more character, I guess. So I'm going to take my clear wax, and I'm going to give it a coat of that, and I'm not being super heavy with this. I'm just trying to smooth out that paint and give it a little bit more depth, because the clear wax tends to kind of darken the color a little bit there. So I'm gonna grab some of my dark wax and I'm gonna scoop a little bit out and put it on a little lid, and I just need a little bit. And I'm also gonna grab some more of that clear wax, and I'm gonna mix that together So what I'm trying to do here is mellow out some of that dark wax so that it's not so deep, and make sure that it's not going to just look like mud on there, on that coral color. So I'm doing a light coat on there really quickly. I'm not I'm not doing anything major. So, and then I'm just wiping it back with a paper towel. So once I got that where I wanted, I grabbed my gilding wax and I'm just going to put some on my finger, and I'm going to lightly just kind of brush the surface with that. I'm not doing anything super gilded or heavy-handed. I'm just lightly going over the tops, and I'm skimming the top of that. So once I got that where I wanted, I'm going to take my Gorilla glue gun, and I'm going to glue in those cardboard pieces that I covered with the batting and the burlap ribbon earlier. And I'm just going to flip that over and put some glue down and glue it in through the back there to cover those raw edges of that piece. So here you see me just gluing it in and pressing it down, and I'm turning it over and just making sure I got all those edges covered and I don't have any raw edges showing through there. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some little bunches of faux flowers that I have, and I'm gonna just take those apart so that I could just use the pieces that I want. And once I picked out the pieces that I want to use, I'm grabbing some ribbon that it's almost like a lacy ribbon that I got from the dollar store, and you can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm using. So, and I'm just tying a bow with that on the bottom, and making sure that everything kind of is going where I want it to be, and getting the look that I want. So I'm gonna trim off the bottom of those stems there just so that it fits better on my little plaque. And I grabbed this little bird that I had left over, and I'm gonna cover that with the dark and clear wax mixture. And I just had this little piece left over from a project earlier. You could use whatever you wanted, a piece of jewelry, a brooch, a button, whatever you had. And then once I got that covered with wax and wiped back, I'm going to take my gilding wax again and just put a coat over that, that little piece there. I'm going to grab my glue gun again, and I'm going to glue this piece right over the ribbon. And you can see here I'm just kind of situating everything where I want it, and this is what I ended up with. But wait, I did not really love the way that these turned out. The coral just was not what I thought it was going to be. It just was not sitting well with me. I just did not really love it. So I decided to go back and paint over it again using this sandy blonde color, it's called, from DIY. And I just go through and I do 2 coats of that, and making sure that all of that was covered. Once that dried, I got some white wax, and I just went through and did a coat of white wax. I was a little bit heavier handed with this white wax, and then I wiped it back, and then I started wet distressing, not heavily, just a little bit to kind of bring through little pieces of that coral, not a whole lot. So once I got that distressed to where I wanted it, I grabbed my gilding wax again and just skimmed over the top of this to bring back some of those details. Once that was done, I just grabbed my glue gun and I just glued back on those little bundles of flowers that I had made before. I didn't change those any, so I just put those right back where I had taken them off from. And so I like this a little better. To me, it's a little more pleasing to the eye, not so jarring. So let me know what you liked best. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you spending your time with me today, and I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Friday.